If you've never interviewed in medical device sales, you probably don't know what it all entails. Many people just try to wing it and think they can come into the interview process and they'll get a job for over $100,000. But that's not how this works. There's over 5 interviews in most interview processes, and you need to be able to show that you're a top candidate. And today I'm going to go over 6 tips on how you can keep moving through the interview process in medical device sales. Number 1, know your why. When you're trying to break into medical device sales, you have to know why you want to come into this industry. Just saying, I just want to make money, or hey, I just want to help people, that's great. And that will get you to a certain point. But managers and recruiters are going to want to understand why you want to pursue this industry. What personal ties do you have to it? Or what drives you to become a rep inside of this industry? Because many times we talk to people who just say, I just want another job, or I heard medical device sales makes a lot of money. That's great, but that's not going to get you past a first round interview, because these companies want to know that they're going to get somebody who's passionate about helping others, who's financially driven, but also has a tie to medical device sales or a tie to the product or this industry, because that's what's going to push them and continue to have them work hard day in and day out. But a mistake that we see is most people just try to get on a call, say, I was interested in the industry or I'm looking for a new job. And that's why they don't move on. They haven't even taken 5 minutes to actually think about why do they want to be a part of this industry, why they want to be a part of medical device sales with a certain company, and why they will be successful. So make sure to take some time, actually think about it. And I promise you, this is going to be a question you get asked a lot. So make sure you have a solid why you want to get into medical device sales. Number 2, make them sell to you. So to clarify, you still have to show why you're a great person and why you're a great candidate for the position. But many times we see the mistake of individuals just saying, I just want a job, I'll do whatever it takes, please just take me. And you can actually feel the neediness coming off of that candidate, compared to if you're somebody who's very confident in themselves, they know what they bring to the table, they know that they'll make a positive impact in an organization. It changes the conversation and the dynamic of the relationship of that conversation. And so we always bring it back to dating. I always say this to our members: if you're just willing to date the first person who says yes, that person's not going to feel that special. And they can also just feel that you're probably just looking for someone to go out on a date with. But if you actually know who you are, know what you bring to a relationship, know what you're able to offer, then you're not just looking for the first person or first company that just says yes, right? And so when you're showing up in these calls, these interviews, make sure that you know that you bring value to the organization. And again, where we've seen our members have the most success is when they are also interviewing the companies that they're on a call with or they're in the interview process with, because just like a relationship, it needs to be a mutual fit. Both parties need to say yes, and both parties need to think that it's great. Now, one thing to think about is not every company or organization is going to be the right fit for you, and that's okay. And I spend a lot of time with new people trying to break in the industry because we hear all the time, oh, just go get the first job that you can, or just go say yes to anybody who will take you. But why that's not great advice is because then we watch those same exact people who took that advice looking for a new job 3, 6, 9 months later because they joined a team or an organization that didn't align with them. They're not having that much fun, or they're not a good fit. And we've actually seen territory managers or other members of their team trying to get them fired. And we actually talk to them on a pretty regular basis where they're like, I only was in the industry for 3 or 6 months, and then I got fired because it wasn't a good fit. So again, this all can be prevented if you're actually interviewing the companies that you're going on these calls or interview processes with, and not just taking the first thing that's a yes. You have to make sure that it's a good fit on both parties, that you both think that it's going to be a positive relationship, and you need to make sure that you're going to be able to have them sell why you should be a part of their company, not just going with them because they said, we think you're pretty. Number 3, ask these questions early. We are going to tell you about a couple questions that you should ask and you should understand early in the interview process to help you prepare for future parts of this interview process, but also just to help you with your own anxiety. These are things that people don't do, and then they struggle throughout the process. So number one, you need to know when they're looking to hire by. We get this all the time. Some people are afraid to ask this question, but you need to understand, are they trying to hire by the end of the month? Are they trying to hire immediately, AKA in the next 2 weeks? Or are they just putting a short list together that over the next 3 to 6 months, they'll be looking to hire? And why we say this is because this helps you all understand how fast the process can move. If they're gonna go in 2 weeks or trying to fill as fast as possible, that's a way different process than if they're like, oh, we're looking to hire in 3 to 6 months. And I know that sounds simple, but these are questions and things that never get asked. And then people will reach out to us and be like, oh my gosh, this business or this company just said this to me, or they said, I have an interview here. What do I do? And we're not going to be able to answer that until we know a couple of the answers to the questions we're sharing, but especially when are they trying to hire? Number two, why is this position open? Is the position open because somebody left? Somebody got fired? Somebody got promoted? Is this a role that's for growth? They're adding it because that territory is growing. These are very important because it kind of will give you an insight into the territory, the company, and into that team of what's going on. And then you can also have the manager explain why they're hiring and go into a little more depth, and you can answer questions. You should also understand what it is paying. This is the number one thing I have people tell me is they don't ever ask what it pays. And then they're doing all of this work, they're jumping through all of these hoops, and they don't know if it's for $60,000 or $100,000. And it's just a simple question of saying, what does the compensation for this position look like? That's all you have to ask. So you now know when they're trying to hire by, why the position's even open, and how much you can expect to make. Now, one pro tip, make sure you write all of these down because sometimes they will tell you a certain amount, and then as it gets later on, that amount can change, or when you get your offer letter, that amount can change, and you just want to have everything documented. But you need to make sure that you're asking these questions so you know the next steps in the process and how to prepare for them, but also just so you don't have as much anxiety saying, I don't know what to expect. I don't know when they're trying to hire. I don't even know what they're willing to pay me. This will answer all of that. Number 4, know the red flags. If a company dodges questions such as compensation, when they're looking to hire by, why this position is open, and they can't just tell you, you need to be aware of that, and that could possibly be a red flag because sometimes companies will just say, well, what are you looking to get paid? Just so they might have a higher comp plan that they were planning, but if they can get you for a little cheaper, they will go for that route. But you just need to understand if they can't answer questions that you're asking, that's a red flag. For example, I have been in interview processes where I used to say, what does this position pay? The hiring manager couldn't tell me. They actually didn't even know before we got onto the interview. That's a red flag. That shows me a manager who I might not want to work for, because one of the big things of interviewing somebody is actually knowing the compensation of why that person would be going for that job, right? So if they're showing me that they don't even know what the OTE is or the on-target earnings, aka how much money you would make if you hit quota, and they don't know why the job's open, or they kind of beat around it where they kind of don't give you a straight answer. Oh, this position's open because, their last rep was a little difficult. Some of the things in the territory have changed, but they can't give you actual specifics. It doesn't mean you need to run away, but those are things you need to log and understand. I need to be aware of this as I move forward in the interview process, because just know when you guys are going through an interview process and you find a company that you align with, it's easy. It's not hard. It's just like relationships, and I always bring it back to dating. If you're always guessing and trying to understand the next move and trying to play mind games, that's probably not a relationship you want to be a part of. And one thing I just want to say is the people that we get hired with companies that they absolutely are excited about and for the amount of money that they really want to make, both parties are having clear communication and they know what to expect. Also, if that candidate gets another offer, they will literally have the hiring manager call them from that company and say, please don't take this offer. I will be reaching out to the team and here's the next several steps. Or vice versa, before they get the offer, they'll say, hey, you're a top candidate for us. Just so you know, the next steps are A, B, C, and then this is when you would receive an offer by. It's clear communication. And so I just want you all to understand that it should be easy. It's not always going to be as straightforward as I just said, but if you're always guessing, if you're feeling like you're getting ghosted, if you're feeling like you're getting pushed to the side, if you feel like you're just not respected, be aware of that. Because again, companies who have you as their number one will let you know that you're their number one prospect. Number 5, do your research. Don't be like the typical candidate who shows up empty-handed, hasn't done much research, doesn't know what products they sell, has talked to maybe one person, and really didn't even take that many notes. We see this on a day-to-day basis. I've talked to hiring managers that will say a candidate showed up in a t-shirt. Just a little pro tip, show up in a suit. But they'll show up in a t-shirt with no resume. So you want to be able to stand out and actually understand by just doing a little research, you will stand out compared to a majority of the candidates. So make sure you understand, you know the mission statement of the company, you know the products that they sell, you know who their competition is. Make sure you're actually doing a little bit of research before you show up to an interview. And I know some of you are going to be like, that's common sense. But the reality of it is, it's not. Because there's a reason we have to say this on this video. A lot of people just think that they're good enough and they can just wing it. And that will not work in medical device sales. I will promise you, you will not get a job by just hoping it works out or by just winging it. And then to make sure that you show that you do your research, if a company asks, do you have any questions? You should always have questions. You should always want to clarify certain questions that haven't been answered prior, because that shows that you really care about the company, that you're really wanting to understand. And going back to what we said earlier, it shows that you have standards, that you want to be a part of a certain company that has certain standards, compared to if they just say any questions and you say, nope. That's just saying, no, I'll just take whatever you give me. If you give me an offer, I'm good. Compared to when you actually come back with a question that says, hey, yeah, I actually do want to understand these couple things so I can consider if this is going to be a right fit for me. And so make sure you always have questions prepared for every single interview that you go through in medical device sales. Number 6, only take advice from people with a proven track record. This one is going to be massive. Many people don't know the 80-20 rule, and they don't know that 20% of reps make up about 80% of the revenue, right? And that's just a rule that is used all around in sales and in business. But we will talk to people who have talked to 10 different reps, got 10 different pieces of advice, and then are now very confused. And I'm going to say this. A lot of reps and managers will not give you the best advice. And what do I mean by that? I will tell you, if you're talking to someone who came from sales experience and you're coming from a clinical experience or a different background, they're just going to tell you to go get sales experience. But just so you guys know, we help a lot of people without sales experience get in every single day. So you don't necessarily need that. You need to know how to answer the objections that you're going to face during the interview process. And so instead of just calling somebody who works at a large name medical device company and taking everything they have to say because they work there, you need to challenge it a little bit, because we just actually had this happen yesterday. A high up at a large medical device company told one of our people that they probably don't have a good fit, they probably won't get hired, that their company only hires internally, and they probably won't have any positions opened. But then that same person gave them the contact to the hiring manager that they needed to talk to. And so that person was actually discouraged when we talked to them, because they just got told by somebody all these 4 negatives of why they won't be a great fit. But then they also did get the contact of who they can go talk to actually go get a job. I'm saying this is, most people you're going to talk to who don't want to spend time and actually help you will just say this: go get sales experience. They won't explain it. They won't explain why you need sales experience. They'll just say, go get sales experience. That's great. But why that doesn't work is because we will talk to people on the daily who went to all of these B2B companies, Cintas, ADP, Enterprise, etc., that did that, and they still can't get a job because the B2B sales experience isn't the only thing you need. I'll just tell you, we get a lot of clinicals hired. They're actually easier to get hired because they have a great background in the clinical world. They know how to talk to surgeons. They actually know a lot of the devices that we work with on the day-to-day. We just have to teach them the sales piece, which isn't that hard if you know how to do sales. So I just want you to understand that just because some rep that you talk to or someone you talk to on LinkedIn told you to go do something, that doesn't mean you need to take their advice, because I'm literally telling you, if you talk to 10 different people in med device sales, they all will most likely give you different advice. And then what happens is if you're the end user watching this, you'll come to us and you're all confused because you got 10 different pieces of advice from 10 different people. And I'm just sitting here telling you the advice we're giving you is because we literally get people hired daily. We literally have helped thousands of people. We work with medical device companies and we know exactly what they're looking for. And just understand, just because someone's been at a company for 10, 20 plus years, they have great experience, they're probably amazing at what they do, but the hiring landscape and the talent pool over the last several years and how companies hire talent is way different than it used to be. So do yourself a favor, find mentors, find people who actually have helped others break into this industry and know what they're looking for. And if you're wanting to learn more, click the link down below where you can learn how we've helped thousands of individuals break into medical device sales.